Welcome to InterPartyConflict, the podcast where we answer your questions so you can have the best tabletop gaming experience possible. My name is Gabe.
My name is Jeff.
And we're going to answer your questions today. But first, I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, Jeff.
Yeah.
What are you doing tonight?
Myself.
I did not mean for that to be a provocative question, but go on.
None of your business, mister. No, I'm going to be, we are going to be playing some Pathfinder 2nd Edition tonight.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah. You've got a game in mind.
Yeah.
And myself, our friends Jay and Steve, we all made characters, and yeah, I'm really excited to play.
Yeah, me too. You know, we've talked about it a little bit, but I've been looking into I've been reading up on the rules of Pathfinder 2nd Edition, and while I've found some weird quirks here and there, but for the most part, I'm pretty impressed with it.
Sure.
So,
yeah, it seems like a really good system. I mean, there are a lot of rules. That is one of the faults, I guess, with just the D20 system in general, is that there is a lot to it.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of really good stuff in this edition. There's a lot of stuff that they've changed that I think is really good. So I'm really excited to see how it plays.
Yeah, and there's a lot of stuff that's like, it's very similar to what we're all used to, but between all the D&D editions and the earlier Pathfinder edition, and I think Starfinder too was like sort of like a in between. Like as far as like their rule set, like Starfinder was sort of 1.5 for them.
Yeah, I never got into Starfinder, but that's an interesting way to look at it.
I made a character in Starfinder. That's about as far as I got, but it did involve like reading up on the on the rules and stuff. But in it, like there's some stuff in there that's very similar to what we're used to, but like it's a little bit more refined in sometimes a little bit too complicated of a way, but that I don't think that's bad. It's just you have to be aware of it. You've got to be aware that the things are a little bit more complicated, more rules. It's a lot more rules than 5th edition.
Yeah.
There's a lot more stuff to keep track of, but I kind of like it.
Yeah.
So yeah, excited for that.
Cool. Do you want to tell our listeners at all about what you have planned?
Oh, sure.
Not necessarily what the actual session's going to be like, but what the campaign is. Yeah,
because I've had the idea of doing like a high seas adventure, island hopping sort of thing, like heavily inspired by things like Monkey Island, which I've made references to in the past, and there's plenty of pirate stuff to go off of. I've also been playing a lot of Sea of Thieves the last couple months, so that's definitely heavy influence. So it's basically you're going to be, not complete shipwrecked, like waking up on a beach passed out, but it's definitely like you're kind of stranded on an island in search of treasure. You got to figure out. You guys are going to basically kind of figure out how you're going to survive the island, how you're going to get off the island, but most importantly, you got to get that treasure.
Sure.
Yeah. Like, because that's what's most important.
Yeah. I know that you told us that we were going to be, on this ship, or we're going to be, our characters are going to be crew of a ship.
Yeah.
And you mentioned that you didn't necessarily have the captain statted out or anything.
Right.
And you left it open for if one of us wanted to possibly be the captain.
Right. And you stepped up.
Well, I did. So of the three of us, Jay and Steve already kind of had character ideas, and I didn't really. And then when you said that the captain was open, I thought to myself, I could be the captain. It at the very least was a good starting point for a character. So with that in mind, I started looking at like the rogue class and some of the options there. And I'm really happy with what we came up with.
Yeah, because I figured it was the best idea to leave the captain slot open in case you guys wanted to be it. Because like the idea of you guys having a captain feels like too close to like a railroady DNPC kind of thing. It's like, well, the captain's going to be a big part of it. So like, unless nobody wanted to be the captain.
Sure. And one idea that I had before I thought of me being the captain, one idea that I had was possibly, and this could be an idea for listeners out there if you're in a similar situation, instead of necessarily just the DM coming up with a captain and then basically being a DMPC, the captain could be the players themselves could stat out the captain as an NPC. So basically have the players make that character.
Oh, okay.
And then the dungeon master plays them.
Sure. Yeah. Because like that way they can, they can kind of fill out the the group in an extra way there.
Sure. Like it's not just the DM, making this authority figure. The players did. The players gave the character the traits and such. Mm-hmm. And then the DM just kind of runs with it and has fun with it,
Yeah.
I feel like I've seen a few like other like non-D&D RPGs where there is some sort of an authority figure where the players design the character and then the DM has to play them according to how the players made them. And I just think that's an interesting concept. So if we didn't have a captain, that could be a way to do it.
Yeah. But no, we've got Captain Winter.
Yep. I can't remember how I came up with the name Captain Winter, but once I came up with that name, then everybody, the others kind of been like, okay, well, my character could sort of be like fall. I could come up with fall as part of my name. And then like Steve was like, oh, I'll be spring. And then we came up with the ship. The ship part of the ship's name is summer. It's the summer cold.
Right. So yeah, we got summer, winter, spring, and fall. So
yeah, because you could say the ship is like another character.
Sure. I mean, I do have some stats for it.
Okay.
So
what's its charisma score?
It does not have one.
Good.
-5.
Hey everybody, I'm the ship. I'm a boat. Well, that's good.
Okay.
All right. Do you have anything else, or should we get into this episode?
We can get into it.
Okay. So, imagine yourself wandering through a notorious dungeon that rumor speaks of a vicious and eclectic dragon dwelling inside. Give me a perception check.
Okay. Gabe,
yeah.
I'm gonna take a picture real quick with my phone.
Okay. Oh boy. Wow.
I've sent Gabe a picture of my result.
Yeah, so that is, wow, Jeff, that's a -1. How did you roll a -1 on a D20? No, he rolled a natural 20. Woo! So good job. I feel like I should give you something extra for that. You get some 5 gold pieces.
Oh yeah,
you find that 5 gold pieces that you lost. It was in your pocket. It's in
right,
your jacket.
Yeah. It was out. It got it out of the jeans, out of my laundry. Yep.
Yeah. Well, you see with that natural 20 that a vast number of fallen heroes have been laid low by the foul monster all around the corridors, but you only see spears, daggers, or clubs in the corpse's hands. From this odd observation, you wander into a large cavernous area with mounds of rusted, beaten, and chipped swords to one side and cracked and melted shields on the other. To this end, you hear the dragon's distant footfalls on its lumbering prowl for more specific loot. And you realize that you have just entered the dragon's sword and board horde. That intro was submitted by the DM's Council via email, along with the item for today. So today's magic item, again, submitted by the DM's Council via email. The item is the Corpse Compass. This is an ordinary pocket compass with a slight necromancy aura. This item is only attuned when you die, and you must have remained dead for 8 hours with the compass on your person. So it definitely goes against standard mechanics in that regard, but, it's kind of its own thing. When you're attuned, your spirit can track the whereabouts of your body for up to a week. Unless extremely mangled, eaten, or dismembered, the corpse is under the effects of a gentle repose spell. So this item, while you have it on your person and then you die, it activates. I almost feel like I would change the terminology. It's not that you are attuned, it's just that it activates after 8 hours.
Yeah.
Just to keep the regular mechanics standard, I guess. But after 8 hours, your body is under the effects of gentle repose, so your body doesn't decompose and can't be raised as an undead. Mm-hmm. And then your soul can track the body. So I'm kind of picturing it sort of, your soul kind of follows your body around wherever it goes.
Yeah.
So yeah, I've never really seen a magic item that is explicitly for your soul and not for the living character.
Mm-hmm.
But it's interesting.
Yeah, no, that's really cool. So it's like the spirit can track the. What does it give it the ability? Does it give your spirit the ability to go back to your body?
I'm not sure. It doesn't say anything. I've never played in a game where the soul's ability to track the body was in question. However, in, say, something like Tomb of Annihilation, I know that in Tomb of Annihilation's kind of part of the plot is that people are unable to be resurrected due to some curse. So I could imagine in a campaign like that, this could be beneficial. You could say that, like, your soul, you are able to be resurrected. It's by some other means because the soul is still kind of following the body around.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if this, as written, would quite have a use in most D&D campaigns. However, you can extrapolate some other mechanics from this. You could say that if your soul is willing, your body can automatically come back to life, after a certain amount of time has passed.
Sure.
Because that's actually, this isn't quite the item, but that's actually an interesting item there is if you have this on your person, after 8 hours, you automatically come back to life once.
Sure.
Like, it doesn't happen immediately.
It's like doing a corpse run in like World of Warcraft or something.
There you go. We've played in, I think in a lot of the campaigns that we've run way back in the day and the ones that I've played in, everybody got like a free true resurrection.
Yeah.
Once per campaign, I guess.
Right.
And this could be similar to that, except that it is, it's the result of a magic item rather than just a house rule.
Yeah. And like, I think there was like at some point I think it was the Eberron campaign where Jay had us like, we received another one, like another resurrection or something.
Yes. Cause I think we had all used ours by like the midpoint of the campaign.
Yeah. We'd all died at least once.
Yeah. One thing that the item itself isn't really what I'm thinking of now. Now I'm thinking of this other version that we've created. This other version that we've created kind of makes me think of the game Sekiro.
Yes.
Because in Sekiro, one of the main mechanics of the game is that when your character dies, you don't die immediately. You've actually got like 30 seconds during which you can choose to come back to life once. And then like you can do it, each time you rest, you get that back or whatever. And in that, in theory, there's a little bit of a strategy to when you come back. Because if you just come back immediately, the enemy that killed you is still standing over your body and is probably just going to kill you again. Mm-hmm. So if you wait a little bit, you can wait until they lose interest and walk away, and then you can come back and then go run to safety or try to kill them or whatever.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of if it was that after 8 hours, your soul can choose to come back to your body. If you could choose to be resurrected, then there might be some strategy to that. Maybe a bad guy has this and then they let themselves get killed so that then the party will bring them back to their base and search them for magic items or whatever. And then they come back to life and take down the good guys from the inside.
Yeah.
Or something.
Ooh, it's like an elaborate scheme that the quest giver is in cahoots with the bad guy.
Ooh,
and they're trying to get the bad guy into the city, and so so they're like, he's like, oh, go and kill this bad guy. He's been trying to attack the city for months now.
Sure.
And we want you guys to go out and take care of him. And so you go out and kill this bad guy. And they're like, oh yeah, make sure you bring back his body for, to prove that you've killed him.
Sure.
And then he gets back in, they bring his body into the city and like Trojan horse style, he comes back to life and starts wreaking havoc.
Yeah. I think that with a little bit of a change, there could be a lot of uses for this in a normal campaign. Mm-hmm. On its own, it's not bad. It's just, it involves mechanics that I don't think a lot of people, play with,
Yeah. I mean, it could just be a really neat way to keep a dead character around. Like the spirit does come back.
Sure.
And it does allow the spirit to come back and basically follow the group while they go and try to figure out how to resurrect them or something like that. So that way the character is still there in person and can interact with the party so that the player is not just sitting there twiddling their thumbs.
Sure.
So yeah, I mean, I think it's a really neat item.
Yeah. It's a neat item. So, I think that'll be it for the Dragon's Hoard today. Once again, that was the Corpse Compass submitted by the DM's Council. So thank you, Mr. or Mrs. Council. So Jeff, if anybody else wanted to submit magic items to the Dragon's Hoard, or if they wanted to submit questions for us to discuss, or stories for the funeral pyre or retirement village, how would they get those to us?
They could send us an email at interpartyconflict@gmail.com or join us on our Interparty Discord at bit.ly/interpartydiscord.
That's correct. And before we go any further, we have our weekly giveaway today.
Ooh.
As usual, we're giving away a copy of Unearthed Tips and Tricks Volume 1, courtesy of Crit Academy. And just a reminder, within the next couple of weeks, we're going to be changing that to be a different giveaway. So your chances are running out if you have not won this great supplement yet. So for anybody who's not familiar, Unearthed Tips and Tricks Volume 1 is a supplement from the Crit Academy podcast where it's a collection of 25 character concepts, encounter concepts, magic items, monster variants, player tips, and DM tips. Tons and tons of great content in there for players and DMs alike. So Jeff, who is our winner of this great supplement today?
Today's winner is Philip D.
Whoa, winner. Gobble, gobble, gobble. Yes, congratulations, Philip D. I will also say Philip D, along with this email, sent us a photo of a winged tiefling and a flowchart for the grapple rules. So I got very angry at him.
Oh, thank you, Philip.
He said he owes me some RC colas for that. So I will call you on that, Philip. So yeah, congratulations, Philip D. You should be getting that in your email pretty soon. Thank you to Crit Academy for facilitating this. Thank you for Philip D for entering. Jeff, if anybody else wanted to win this great supplement, if they want to be like Philip D here and win a copy, but not sending us stuff that we hate, glare, how would they do that?
They could send us an email at interpartyconflict@gmail.com with Unearthed Tips and Tricks in the subject line. And
that's
anything you want in the body. Go ahead. Whatever you want, whatever you got.
I will audibly glare at you, however. Have what you send us.
Have a Tarask putting a bag of holding into a portable hole.
Anyway, so yeah, once again, congratulations, Philip T. Thank you, Crit Academy, for facilitating this. Speaking of giveaways, though, on August 25th, we're giving away a physical copy of the Deck of Many Things and the Deck of Illusions.
Ooh.
So if you're out there, if you want a physical copy of these really cool magical items, leave us a review on the podcatcher of your choice, Apple Podcasts, Podcast Addict, Stitcher, whatever. Leave us a review, send us a photo of that review to our email, interpartyconflict@gmail.com, and we'll enter you in the drawing. We still have very, very, very few people in this drawing. So, when this goes out, there will still be a week before the drawing itself. So please do that. Leave us some reviews and get some free stuff in return. So yes, good luck to everybody out there. Thank you to the listener who donated these to give out. Yeah. So yeah.
Where are those from again?
They're from cultzilla.co.uk.
Right. Yeah, I remember checking them out last time, and they're pretty cool looking.
Yeah.
Like I like them. They're very weathered looking.
Sure.
They're neat.
Cool. Yeah, so one lucky winner will be getting both of these. So
yeah,
good luck.
It's a twofer.
And then next up, I want to tell everybody to go check out our Patreon. We have a Patreon campaign at patreon.com/interpartyconflict. Patreon's an online platform. You can pledge to donate some money to help out the creator of your choice. And one thing that I don't know if I've necessarily stressed in the last few weeks is that we understand if you are unable to donate, or if you're, it's just not feasible for you right now. Take care of yourself first.
Mm-hmm.
If money's tight, worry about us second. Take care of yourself. If there's money left over, consider tossing some of it our way.
Yeah, keep us a close second.
Well, sure. We've got some cool rewards on there if you are willing to, if you are able to donate. We've got outtakes. We've got fantasy fiction that I've written. We've got some bonus episodes. We're probably going to record a bonus episode by the time that this episode goes out. We've got a monthly Roll20 game that this month we're going to be wrapping up a big story arc that we've been playing through for the last few months. Mm-hmm. So some really cool stuff on there. So go and check that out. Patreon.com/interpartyconflict. See if any of the rewards appeal to you. If they do, if you've got the money, toss some of it our way. If not, no worries. If you have to, cancel your pledge, hopefully you don't. But if you do, we understand. We'll be here when you're able to come back. So thank you to all of our wonderful patrons who have donated over the years. We really appreciate it. And yeah, check it out, patreon.com/interpartyconflict. And then just one more thing, check out the other podcasts on the Crit Nation Fellowship. Crit Academy is a podcast where they make new and reusable content for players and DMs alike. Check out Brute Force and Ignorance. They're an actual play podcast. They've been on hiatus for a while, but I hear they're working on getting some new episodes up. And then check out D&D Character Lab. They're no longer making episodes, but they've still got tons of episodes, tons of characters they've made and debated whose characters were better. So check all of those out. Enough of all that. Let's get into some questions, Jeff.
All right, our first question today comes from our friend Jason E. This was on email. Let's say a player builds a very effective character that is designed around spamming one ability or spell. What should the DM do? Allow it, counter it, or outright ban it?
Yeah, so I've been in some situations like this. In fact, I think there's even one that I've mentioned in like a long time ago in previous episodes that actually did have to do with Jay. Not that Jay did anything wrong, but there was an ability that he used that I think Chris was our DM at the time. Mm-hmm. And in my opinion, just being in the group, I feel like Chris made it really way too effective for what it was. And as a player, it kind of took a little bit of the fun out of it for me. But I mean, at the same time, looking back, there's no way I can fault Jay for wanting to use that. I also can't even necessarily fault Chris for what he did. I think just at the time I was, as a player, I'm always being annoyed by stuff, I guess, which is a fault of mine. But
I'll look out for that tonight then.
Sure. But I mean, that does, I think that my attitude has definitely evolved on this sort of an issue. Mm-hmm. So yeah, let's say one of the players has an ability, they have a magic item, they've got some sort of a thing that they do that is turning out to be very, very effective. And then if you're the dungeon master in that case, what should you do to do this? Number one, you can just allow it. Say, okay, the player is just going to be really, really powerful at all times. You can say, no, you can't do that anymore. You can say that ability doesn't work. That magic item got stolen in the middle of the night. You can just take it away. You can also look for ways to counter it. Like, oh, okay, well, the player's really got a really good attack bonus. Well, now all the enemies have really high AC.
Sure.
Take that. So the question is, what should you do? If you do counter it, how often should you counter it? If you are going to take it away, do you give them anything else in return? If you are just going to allow it, how do you still run the game in such a way that everything doesn't just get steamrolled by the players?
Now, we had a question, I don't remember how far back it was, but it was a little while. It's similar to this, that it was a player that would basically just have one thing that they would do in combat.
Sure.
And it wasn't necessarily like as this question, like it's not like super effective. It's just, it just wasn't, they weren't involved. The player wasn't involving themselves beyond, I think it was like Flaming Sphere, like casting Flaming Sphere and hiding behind a rock and just doing that.
Sure.
Or I can't remember if it was Flaming Sphere. It was basically they would just stand and shoot from afar, and that was it. They wouldn't do anything else.
Yeah, I'm sure a lot of groups have that issue with, say, Warlocks, with Eldritch Blast and Spell Sniper and such.
Yeah, right. So, in a similar way, like there are ways you can deal with this by just letting him do what he wants to do. Or you could counter it by, like, in that instance, I think it was, you'd have more ranged monsters or something that's going to be able to shoot him from afar. So he might, he might have to do something else, or find a different place to hide or something, just to give him a little bit more to do. Mm-hmm. But you don't want to hard counter it to the point where it's like a middle finger to the player.
Sure.
You like, so in if I'm remembering the reference that you brought up, it was something to do with caltrops, right? It was like an area effect, basically. Yeah,
Jay had this. His character was like a force-based wizard, so all his spells were like force damage and such. Mm-hmm. But then he had one spell that it wasn't even an attacking spell. It like pushed enemies back.
Yeah.
And Jay had the idea of like, hey, what if I drop a bag of caltrops onto myself and then propel them with his attack, which is a clever ability.
Right.
That's definitely a really cool idea. I would never want to tell the player, oh no, it doesn't work that way. Get out of here.
Right.
But I think that what Chris did was then make it really, really effective to the point where, like, okay, might as well just use that all the time. You know?
Right. So yeah, that, and like you said, like there's no real fault. There's no real fault to Jay, no real fault to Chris, because it's it was a clever idea, and because Chris thought it was a clever idea, he wanted to reward that clever idea with it being effective.
Sure.
But because it was so effective and because it was so simple and like recreatable.
Yeah.
So like when a player is like, I'm going to do this wacky thing and I'm going to do a twirl and jump off and, spin in the air and then strike him, and like hoping it's going to do something extra special.
Sure.
So like the DM can either go, okay, roll your attack, like nothing different, just an attack roll, or they can go, all right, you get advantage, or what have you. So like they, you want those moments to be exciting and rewarding, but it has to be one of those things that's like, it happens every once in a while. Like there's only that configuration of chairs, tables, and walls for them to jump and do flips off of.
Sure.
Every so often. So it's not like they can just do that whenever.
Right.
But in the case with the caltrops, it's like caltrops is a bag of caltrops. What does that cost?
Like 5 gold or something.
Maybe even if.
Yeah.
So like it's just as easy as him using a spell, casting a spell, which he can have I don't know how many times per day, and a caltrop you just bag of holding full of caltrops. Who knows? So like if it's something that is spammable, recreatable that easily, like it's you still want to try to reward it, but I don't know. You gotta have a way to kind of dial it back or make it so it's not always gonna work that way. Have the like change the situation, or like flavor the actual situation. Like it wasn't that he poured it over his head and it just blew off everywhere. It's it blew off and it ricocheted off of something nearby that like it put some element in there that makes it so you can't happen every time.
Sure.
I guess. I don't know.
I feel like in an ideal world, any character that is like a one-trick pony or like a glass cannon or whatever, in an ideal world, there would be situations that make the player love the fact that they have this one ability and also hate the fact that this is their only ability.
Sure.
Like in the case of like a glass cannon, for anybody, I guess, who's there was recently a Crit Academy episode where they had a question that was like, what are all of these terms that you keep using? And so I think in the future I will try to explain what some of these terms mean that I just take for granted. But a glass cannon is a character who is really, really good at offense, but incredibly terrible at defense. So like they've got tons and tons of attacking abilities or attacking damage or whatever. But if you can get like one solid hit on them, they just go right down.
Right. So a cannon, which will do a lot of damage, but it's made of glass. So if you hit it once, it falls to pieces.
Sure. So if someone is, say, playing a glass cannon, you want them to have lots of situations where they can be like, heck yes, my offensive ability is perfect for this. And then you also want situations where they're like, oh no, I took one hit and went down. So like you want them to be happy with their choices and also occasionally regret their choices. I would say maybe like 75-25. Like most of the time you want them to be happy with their choices, but you want them to remember that they did take these downsides. They did make these sacrifices. So if a sacrifice is completely ignorable, then it might, then what's even the point? You just
not a sacrifice.
Gave them power.
Yeah.
So like Jay actually worded the question a little bit more comprehensively. And one of the things he said is like, if you build the encounter in a way that does negate their one trick, you might do it once to teach them a lesson. Like, if their ability is that they have this one attack that is like a whole lot of fire damage or something like that. And then you have them fight an enemy that's immune to fire damage. You can counter it. You can be like, haha, teach you a lesson. But how often do you do that? Because it can be really cool as the player to have this one powerful attack. You do a bunch of fire damage. You take down a boss. Everybody loves you for it. But then suddenly, if every single encounter is like, oh, another enemy that's immune to fire, and another enemy that's immune to fire and another one, then it's like, well, now they don't even have the benefit. They only have the drawback. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that is a difficult thing to balance. I might stick with like a 75-25 thing. Maybe one out of every 4 encounters, there is an enemy or multiple enemies that do make that character's one trick kind of irrelevant. But even in that case, try not to ever make it so that player has nothing they can do.
Yeah. And also make it so you're not also punishing the other players too.
Yes, definitely.
So, like if you're making an encounter more difficult to offset this player's overpoweredness,
yeah,
like that's gonna make it even harder for the rest of the group. So yeah, you gotta weigh that too.
Yeah, because if it's just like, oh, this one player has a ton of hit points, and so they can soak any attack that they want. Well, if you just give all of the enemies a whole lot more damage to make up for that, the rest of the party that isn't necessarily one-trick ponies with a ton of hit points, then they're suffering the same drawback, or they're suffering a drawback because of this other player's advantage, and then that's rough all around.
Yeah.
So, in I think it's in the Dungeon Master's Guide, maybe it was in an earlier edition, I can't remember, but there's some sort of a guide for like how many what percentage of encounters should be easy encounters, what percentage should be difficult encounters, what percentage should be impossible encounters, and then what percentage should be like, I don't know, super easy encounters or whatever. If you can come up with some sort of a balance that works for you, you can apply that to things that counter, this one ability or spell. I guess this whole discussion is kind of difficult not knowing the specific ability or spell or whatever, because, they're all going to vary.
Right, yeah.
But, some small percentage, between 10 and 25% of the encounters should probably completely negate whatever this one ability is.
Mm-hmm.
Depending on the enemies, of course. Maybe there's like, if the big bad evil guy at the end of the campaign is someone that has been studying the players and knows their special tricks, you might, over the course of the campaign, start ramping up the number of encounters that counter their specific strengths.
Yeah.
But even still, you don't want the players to stop having fun, even if it makes sense for the bad guy. Because, heck, if it makes sense for the bad guy to just blow up the world, that's not fun for the players necessarily. There's nothing they can do about it. So even if it makes sense, still try to have like a progression.
Sure. What we could also do is like you're ramping up the difficulty for the player, but then like at a certain point you can keep ramping it up and up and up, but at a certain point you can kind of like you can boost their ability even more to kind of like do like sort of like a leapfrog thing where it's like for a while they're king of the battlefield, like they got the cool ability that they're just throwing out and having a good time with, and and every once in a while they come across something that's immune to it or resistant to it, and I was like, oh, that was a little tough, and then maybe now more often than not, it's these really resistant guys are showing up a lot, but then like they find a magic item that allows them to change the damage type or something.
Ooh, okay.
That they can change it like once per day or something like that. They can switch it over.
Yeah,
and then maybe it's between two damage types or something, and then eventually you might bring in guys who are resistant to that other damage type, and just kind of you're having like a back and forth power creep basically. But again, it's something you want to keep the other players in mind. You maybe give them boosts as well to compensate. Make sure that they're getting a special magic item that helps them keep up.
Yeah, if one player is getting all of the attention because of this, then something has gone wrong, and something needs to be reevaluated.
Yeah.
There's a video game podcast that I listen to called Watch Out for Fireballs.
Oh yeah.
It's on the Duck Feed Network. I listen to lots of podcasts from them, and they review games. They play video games, they talk about it, they review it, and so on. And they've actually, a few of their podcasts are different varieties of game review. And one thing that they said I think they were covering the game Hollow Knight, but this applies to a lot of different games. In this one particular game, there's a point where you upgrade your weapon, and they made a point that at the place where you upgrade your weapon, right outside, there's just a normal mook enemy, just a regular enemy that's just hanging out, not too aggressive. You can walk out and kill them pretty easily. And they made a point in this podcast that when you first arrive there, that enemy takes 2 hits to kill. Once you upgrade your weapon, that enemy takes 1 hit to kill. And that's a really important part of game design, because if you give your player this really cool ability that is really powerful, you do want to immediately let them show off how powerful it is.
Yeah.
If they get this new ability, or you give them this magic item or whatever, make the first encounter, maybe even the first couple encounters, intentionally easy to make them feel awesome.
Sure.
Like they are on top of the world. They are so powerful they can take on anything.
Yeah.
And then after that, once they've gotten used to that, then you start coming in with like, oh no, this enemy's actually immune. Or this enemy's not immune, but he's got a lot more hit points. Or, oh, he's got a thing that disrupts whatever it is you're doing. So you do definitely want to have, it is a ramp or like a gradient or whatever. You do want to have early on, very easy, very powerful. And then, as it goes, maybe with a few dips here and there, like they've had some rough encounters, throw in an encounter that is really easy again, or really makes that ability shine.
Yeah.
And then ramp up the difficulty again. Just keep an eye on your players, see how much they're having fun. If they're getting really frustrated at never being able to kill anything, maybe dial it back a little bit, have some more encounters where it's really easy and so on.
I played a little bit of Magic the Gathering online yesterday, and this makes me think of my my deck that I've built that has like a lot of crazy combos in it, and like I've built this deck specifically for these combos, and it's like they're ridiculous, like unlimited monster combos and like tons of health combos, that kind of thing, where it's just like if allowed to do it, I basically win the game if there's nothing there to stop me,
Sure.
And I'm like, I'm going to keep trying to do it every time I play this deck. The whole point of the deck is to get these combos. But like, if I'm playing against somebody who is destroying my cards as I put them out, I can't do the combos. Yeah. And so like, if I play like 10 games in a row, never once being able to, to actually activate one of those combos, I would get really discouraged. I'm like, why did I build this deck?
Sure. Yeah.
It's like, what's the point? And it's like, I could go into deck building in Magic the Gathering. The point is like that, like no one's going to let you do that because they know it's going to happen. Like they're like, no, I'm not going to let you win. That's the point of the game is to win. Like I'm not going to just let you do it. But yeah, so like, you want to let your player activate that combo every once in a while, just so they can be like, yes, I'm the best. And then, but have it be like, a challenging or even a struggle at times.
Yeah. You don't ever want the players to regret their choices when making their characters, but you do want them to realize, maybe next level I pick up that feat that gives me a few extra hit points. Sure. You want them to realize the importance of other abilities too.
Yeah. Or the importance of the other players, of the other characters. Like your shortcomings as the glass cannon is that you have no defensive abilities. Maybe then like you want to help the paladin shine, he's going to use his defensive abilities to keep me alive so I can do the big damage.
Yeah. And that's a really good point, because if anytime, I would say you should make the encounters more tailored against the specific player anytime that player is the star of the battle too much.
Yeah.
If every encounter is, okay, everybody else is just sitting there and then the one player just kills all the enemies, that's a problem. Maybe once in a while, but that's a problem when that's the standard. You should try and counter that ability enough that other players have battles where they're the star.
Right.
I guess it all really comes down to hogging the spotlight, I guess, not necessarily intentionally. Not that I think that everybody in these cases are trying to hog the spotlight, but just, it can happen anytime one player is the star of the battle too often, you should start tailoring the next encounters to counter that until there's more of a variety. Because if you're doing all the damage and then like the paladin is just sitting there not doing anything, then there needs to be more encounters where the paladin's abilities are important and relevant and so on. So then everybody has to rely on them and so on. So I guess just to summarize, it's kind of hard to answer this question without like a specific ability in mind, but just in general, pay attention to your players, see how much fun they're having. Try not to let one player be the center of attention all the time. If they are, that's when you need to start scaling it back. But don't just dump on that player. Try to have, like rising action and then like where it gets more and more difficult for them, and then a dip, and then it gets difficult again, and then so on. And then try to have points where they get some sort of a boost to get around one of those counters that you've been throwing in, and so on. Because you don't ever want anybody to regret their choices.
Oh yeah, of course.
I think that'll do it for our regular questions for today. That was a pretty meaty one, I think.
Sure.
So next up is our social media questions. Our last social media question was, when did you decide to leave the villain alive, and what happened afterwards? Do you recall if you had an answer for this question?
No. I did recall the the lich nemesis of Stephen in the
Sure.
I think that was the Eberron campaign, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Won't die.
Won't die. Yeah.
Wait. Well, that was the same campaign where I had the cohort named New Guy.
Yeah, that's true.
We are so good at character names.
Yes. Well, and that's the campaign where you couldn't come up with a name, so I named your character Walking Stick.
Right.
And I refused to call you anything else until it stuck.
Right.
So.
Yeah. Because it just Walking Stick was like listed under your weapons because you were a wizard. You didn't have a weapon. You had spells.
I was on an artificer, but yeah.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. So you just like had a club, but you called it a walking stick, and you're like, we'll call you Walking Stick.
Yeah. So as much as not destroying a phylactery can be called leaving, letting the villain live or whatever.
Right.
The villain kept coming back is the answer. He kept coming back and we kept fighting him and we kept defeating him.
Yep.
Did we eventually destroy his phylactery? I don't remember.
I'm pretty sure we did it. Yeah, I don't know.
The campaign had a strong enough note of finality that I feel like we did, but
yeah,
I don't know.
But who knows?
Yeah. And then there was the actual play that we did where you guys got attacked by a vampire, and because Justin freaking grappled stupid, he grappled the villain that I was trying to have escape, and then he put her in manacles. But then you guys decided to let her live. You let her go.
Yeah.
And I think it led to some very interesting roleplay. And I have some directions that was going to go in the future. Maybe we will talk about those in our next bonus episode.
Yeah.
So yeah, some fun stuff there. So we only got a few responses, but over on Facebook, Dan W says, I often decide not to kill villains. Then the rest of my party steps in and tears them limb from limb. As a DM, my groups murder everything, so this has never happened. I had such plans. Shame. Yeah, no, I feel you. I feel like it is a fairly rare occurrence. This is what it is. It's not really a good thing or a bad thing. It's just how role-playing games go. I feel like recurring villains don't really work in D&D like everybody wants them to.
Right, yeah.
Over on Reddit, Alstar the Minotaur says, I mean, he was kind of our boss. Also, we didn't rightly know he was a villain while we were bringing him different magical artifacts. Once we realized he was the bad guy, he had a bunch of powerful magic items that we hand-delivered to him to fight us with. I suppose it was a good thing we kept some of the lesser magic items for ourselves, because we kicked his butt and became heroes of the realm, previous liberation of artifacts not included. On Discord, eThompson03 says, I've never DM'd a game where my players were disciplined enough to keep them alive. or they got lucky and killed them while I tried to have them flee. My players always threw the kitchen sink at villain fights. And yeah, I think that's a pretty standard thing. Damien the DM, however, offers an alternative. My villains live through proxies. They die and live at the same time. And really, that's kind of what you have to do in this medium. If you want a recurring villain, you cannot have the players actually fight the villain. You kind of have to just have them send proxies, send henchmen, and so on. That way, the players can be the ravenous monsters that they are, and they can kill everything they encounter, but also the bad guy is still around.
Right, yeah.
So, the Beverage Tea says, in the games that I play with my daughter, she makes it a point to keep the baddies alive. She has a powerful army of former enemies that are loyal allies now.
Ooh.
In my other campaigns, not so much. So, yeah, that's a way to do it.
Yeah, that's like the Goku approach.
Yeah. Yep.
Or like the majority of his enemies become his allies, or at the very least, like work with him at times.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's pretty accurate, I guess. Autumn Wind says, in the Lost Mines of Phandelver, we captured the Black Spider. My tiefling sorcerer was a member of the Zentarim, and the Black Spider mysteriously escaped while I was on guard duty. And then there's an emoji of like a scratching your chin, like a He never reappeared, though. From there, the party went to Chult. My sorcerer had been clashing with the party face. She had convinced the local goblins to submit to her and was a threat to the Zentarim's interests locally. So my character decided to stay behind and claim the now abandoned mansion and reap the rewards of being a local hero, and I had a new character join the party for the next adventure. And then Dustin says, in the Patreon game, in our Patreon game, we were being attacked by the King's Guard. Once we had won the fight, we let the survivors go. They then ran to the nearest town and activated the local guard to hunt us. So much for being nice. And yeah, I did that. Sorry, guys. I mean, if it's any consolation, whether they survived or not, I mean, someone was gonna come for the players. And then Potato Plunderer says, during the first session of my current campaign, the three players had come together for the first time by coincidence as they fought off a group of thugs. They persuaded one of these thugs to fight his compatriots with a natural 20 persuasion check. Having not been treated well by the thugs, the half-witted orc named Doc proceeded to help the party whip some tail. He then became the fourth member of the group for quite some time. However, after the rogue brutally murdered her husband, who turned out to be the BBEG, the big bad evil guy, he was scared of the party and decided to strike out on his own. A downright spectacular NPC he was. We'll see him again at some point. And there you go. That's a pretty cool story.
Yeah.
Was it you that had a World of Warcraft character named Doc, or was that Steve? I know you had Tick and Talk.
Yeah, Steve was Tick and I had Talk. We were gnome brothers of different magic casting classes.
Okay, and then I remember,
but he made a character named Doc.
Yes,
that I think was his paladin.
Oh, okay, because I remember he became because you got like titles based on your
on your rank in your
rank.
Yeah.
And his title was Private, and so it was Private Doc.
Right.
And he thought it was hilarious because he was picturing like a dock on a lake that is private.
Private dock, no fishing, like no diving, or something.
Yeah, so I thought that's funny. Anyways, that was our last social media question. Our next social media question, however, and this was submitted by Floofy Shoob on Discord. If a monster were created in your image, what would it be and what abilities would it have?
Ooh.
So this is very much inspired by the Memorable Monsters Kickstarter that Crit Academy is running right now.
Oh, sure.
I'm pretty sure by the time this episode goes out, it'll still have a week or two left.
Cool.
So go check that out, of course. But yeah, one of the rewards on there, I think this came up in discussion because I mentioned one of the rewards was if you get like the absolute highest tier, you will get made as a monster in the book.
Uh-huh.
And I think I made a comment about like, not that I would have ever pledged that much because that was like several $100s. But if I had wanted to be a monster in the book, I could have written a monster and submitted it to Justin months ago, and then it would have gone in the book. But whether that's true or not, I don't know.
Yeah.
But that brought on the question: if a monster were created in your image, what would it be?
Oh man, I don't know. Like, well, it's like if it's in your image, doesn't that necessarily mean it looks like you?
I mean, not necessarily, but like if someone was like, okay, Jeff, I'm going to make Jeff the monster in the monster manual.
Mm-hmm.
What is that monster? Maybe what does it look like, but like what abilities does it have? What does it do?
It'd be a big old punchy turtle. I don't know.
Okay.
Like a big beefy turtle that it's got real powerful punches. I don't know.
That works. I mean, you could, if you would like to come up with a better answer by next time, you can.
Sure. Yeah.
Feel free. I don't know. For me, I feel like if I was a monster in D&D, I would probably be some sort of a thing that creates stuff, because I create stuff. So I would either summon monsters or, I don't know, animate objects that then fight for me or something. Because, I'm not going to punch someone. You know what I mean?
Sure.
I don't know. And then I would probably have a special ability that if I bathe my arms in blood, I get special powers.
Okay. So you wouldn't punch anything, but you'd bathe your arms in their blood.
No, I would have my minions go and bring blood that I could then bathe my arms, because then they'd be red.
Right. Okay.
Yep.
I gotcha.
So I don't know, I guess, is the answer. Maybe
All
that's
right.
why I didn't submit myself as a monster.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So yeah, I'm interested in seeing if any of our listeners have any good answers to those. So yeah, so that'll do it for our questions for this week. But before we close out, we do still we do still need to let's wind down a little bit. Let's relax. Let's take a deep breath. Let's remember those who have come before us, who have given their lives so that the rest of us may have a better world to live in, as we toss another log onto the funeral pyre. So today's funeral pyre was submitted by Wandering64 on Reddit, and they say, I had a kind of cursed potion of invulnerability that would turn you into an invulnerable stone statue. It became something of a joke to hang on to for a long time. The party was fighting the big bad, who was a beefy caster that was resistant to magic, and the fight was not going our way. So as a gambit, I downed the potion and grappled the bastard, striking a pose as heroically as I could make a headlock look. That's where my character died, followed closely by the big bad guy, unable to escape the death grip. Haha, he was dispatched by the rest of the party. As a bonus, my character became his own monument to himself. There you go. That's a way to do it. If you get a magic item like that, might as well find a way to put it to good use, I guess.
Right.
Yeah. So I guess let's raise a glass in memory of Wandering64's character, who I guess just wanted to give you a big hug. Clink. All right, that'll do it for today. To submit questions for us to discuss, items for the Dragon's Hoard, or stories for the funeral pyre, please email us at interpartyconflict@gmail.com. For show notes, links to media mentioned on the show, and running lists of questions and magic items, go to interpartyconflict.com. You can join the discussion on social media. We are on Facebook, we are on Reddit, we are on Twitter at InPartyConflict, and we have our Interparty Discord. Check those out for our weekly social media questions. If you answer them, your answers might end up on the show. Check us out on the podcatcher of your choice. We're on Apple Podcasts, Google Play Music, Stitcher, YouTube, Spotify, anywhere you download podcasts. Please rate, review, subscribe, or just tell a friend. If you leave us a review, send us a photo of it at our email address, interpartyconflict@gmail.com, and then you will get entered to win a physical copy of these two decks of magic cards. Not magic cards,
right?
Magic cards.
Right.
On the 25th of August. So send those to us. If you'd like to support the show monetarily, check out the rewards at patreon.com/interpartyconflict. We have a few different tiers, so anything you can spare, even $1 a month, would go towards making the show better, and you'll get bonus content for it. Jeff, tell us about FriendQuest.
FriendQuest is a YouTube channel where you can watch us play video games.
Yes. Speaking of video games, check out my side project, the Arcade Memories Podcast. If you have anything you'd like to submit for it, you can send that to arcadememoriespodcast@gmail.com. Also, head over to bit.ly/InterPartyConflict to take a short survey about our show. What you like, what you don't like, etc. And just for taking it, you'll get 2 free printable board games courtesy of Mary and Tom over at hollandspiel.com. And our music is made by Boxcat Games from Nameless the Hacker's RPG. So, Jeff, until next time,
Eldritch Blast.